All right, this is hopefully the third and final time that we're starting with this. We should be live. If there's any issues on my end, please let me know. I will correct those. This finally should be the last time we get this going. An hour after I originally intended this to start. I sincerely apologize, but this YouTube has been very, very unhelpful today. I am not the biggest fan of YouTube, but YouTube is what we have. So let's get started with this. Like I said already, twice, my lock newspaper of record goes down. 1-5 favorite. That's an absolute shocker to me. She was my lock. Like I said, Bella Fina was my pick. But as far as Bella Fina, I was not as confident with Bella Fina as I was with, say, newspaper of record. And what do I think this has to do with her? I really don't chalk this loss up to much. I do think it is not necessarily concerning, and I don't think it hurts her chances at Royal Ascot per se, because I do think that this is kind of a loss that has contributed to the fact that she hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She looked really good at Churchill Downs in November, and 6 months later, it's almost like she just needs a race to get back into the swing of things, I should say. But newspaper of record, I'm not really going to put too much on this. I do say that it is concerning to an extent, but newspaper of record, like I said, shocking upset, yes. Concern about Royal Ascot, no. Newspaper of record, I think, still ends up going to Royal Ascot. Still do like her. She is the best grass filly that this country has had in the past couple of years. I'd probably say maybe in 20 years. There has not been many good grass fillies to come out of this country. So, newspaper of record, not too concerned about it. Like I said, shocking, yes. Let's continue on. Let's go to the Sheba Stakes. McKinsey. McKinsey's a horse that I've been up and down on all year. My take on McKinsey has been and is still he is much better at distances less than 9 furlongs. 9 furlongs or less, you got me good with McKinsey. 10 furlongs, not a fan of McKinsey at. If you give me McKinsey at something like a mile, 7/8 of a mile, and 7 furlongs, I love McKinsey. McKinsey, I will take McKinsey at that anytime, any day of the week. But if you give me McKinsey at, say, a race like the mile and quarter Churchill Downs, Breeders' Cup Classic last year, will not take that. McKinsey ran a very nice race in the Malibu Stakes. Very, very nice race. And then he goes up against the late Battle of Midway. Very unfortunate what happened to Battle of Midway, by the way. But he goes up against Battle of Midway in the San Pasqual. Yeah, that's what that race was. He goes up against Battle of Midway in the San Pasqual, runs second. It was a good second, but he still ran second. Now, the San Pasqual, I know, was not the distance that, say, some of the later races in the year are, like the Breeders' Cup Classic, like the Hollywood Gold Cup, things like that. Still, I will say for McKinsey, not the biggest fan of him at those types of distances. But looking at it this way, McKinsey, they said his next route after the Ali Sheba Stakes is the Met Mile. And I will say, there are not many horses in this country that I would say are tailor-made for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. McKinsey's one of them because you like I've said before, there are three types of horses in places not this country. You got your milers, you got your sprinters, and you got your distance horses. McKinsey is one of the few types of horses that I would say is a miler. I would not say that there are many horses that you could consider horses that are milers on dirt. It's either you got your sprint horses or your distance horses. And I know the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile usually ends up just being a consolation prize for the horses that don't want to run in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I know Liam's Map was a perfect example of that. So was City of Light to a lesser extent. I don't discredit City of Light winning the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Not that I discredit Liam's Map winning the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile either, but City of Light, it doesn't seem like it was as much of a consolation prize, whereas Liam's Map, it was obvious the owners didn't want to try American Pharoah. Can you blame them, really? No, but they didn't want to try him. Kind of suspect. Why is the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile something that exists? I don't know. Probably just a reason so we can get more Breeders' Cup races. But obviously, let's talk about the big race on the card today, and then we'll get into some of the action for tomorrow. The Kentucky Oaks, Bella Fina, the favorite, goes down to a horse that I tweeted right before the race that the odds on Jaywalk, the champion 2-year-old filly from last year, 7-1, those were way too high for Jaywalk. They should not have been that high for the talent that Jaywalk has at this point. Jaywalk, I think this race proved, and some of you were telling me that Jaywalk, I didn't have the right take on Jaywalk, that she was about to peak at the right time. I did not buy that at all. Jaywalk, for me, seems like a horse whose best races are behind her. Whereas horses like Serengeti Empress, like I said with her on Twitter, her odds were way too high. You can't hold her race in the Fairgrounds Oaks against her because she bled in that race. Now, if there had been no issues and she just faltered like that at the top of the stretch, then you can throw every kind of she's not any good horse at me, but she bled, and I will not say that her bleeding should not have been the reason why she was a double-digit long shot. You give me those odds, you give me 13-1 on her. Shame on anyone who didn't take that. Like, that's a gift. That's a gimme right there. 13-1 on a horse with as much talent as Serengeti Empress has. I'd take that any day of the week, twice on Sunday. Now, the verdict on Bellafina, I will say, she's a talented horse. She has a lot of talent, but she cannot win in large fields. And that's the thing that I think is ultimately going to cost her in the end when she runs in some of the year-end races, because it's all fine and well and good for her to run in, say, the races like all the races out in California. She's run against 5 or 6 horses. Santa Anita Oaks, perfect example. Bellafina runs against a field of Chasing Yesterday, and the rest of that field was a bunch of cookies. No one else in that field was any good besides not Serengeti Empress, Chasing Yesterday. Bellafina, I think what Simon Callaghan should do for the rest of the year, take her back to California, hide her from everyone else there. She'll run good races, she'll win races, and then you deal with what happens at the end of the year when the end of the year comes. Maybe she has better luck because the Breeders' Cup is at Santa Anita, but I don't think Bellafina can handle a large field. And you saw that. And when we get to talking about the Kentucky Derby, and yes, I see Kirk is a Killigan commented game winner. Yes, game winner is my pick for the Kentucky Derby. If you have not heard already, I've said that in a lot of picks. I will get to game winner in a moment. I just wanted to say, and also, this isn't, I'm not sure how many people know about this. Jaywalk was disqualified to last place because you did see the incident with Positive Spirit, and very, very fortunate that nothing came out of that. Manny Franco got up, walked away perfectly fine. The horse got up and walked away perfectly fine. Both rider and horse are going to come back strong from that. Manny Franco is riding Spinoff tomorrow in the Kentucky Derby. I will take game winner, but I do say Spinoff is a horse that you should take seriously. A lot of people are saying Spinoff has the best value. Again, I will get to the Kentucky Derby in a few minutes, but I did want to just talk a little bit about Serengeti Empress and how she was undervalued. And I said that, and I'm not sure if he's in the live stream yet. If you are, whoever was texting me about that on Twitter. You like Spinoff? Yeah, Spinoff is a horse that has a lot of value. And I would say he's not my pick, but if you played him, I would not call you an idiot for that. Again, my trifecta, I'm not trying to get into the Kentucky Derby right now. Yeah, Spinoff did kind of get screwed by the post position, but that's what happens in a 24 horse field. You're going to have horses that get screwed by the post position. War of Will, like I said, I beat the dead horse on War of Will, getting screwed with the post position. He got absolutely screwed. He's going to benefit a little bit from the scratch of High Call. So now he'll not be pinched on the rail. He'll still be on the rail, and it is, excuse me, it's still going to be hard for him to win the race, but it's not going to be as hard as it was for War of Will to win the Kentucky Derby as it was 24 hours ago. But just finishing the point on Serengeti Empress, if you did not take that 13-1 odds on her, you need to learn how to handicap more, because that right there with a horse with as much talent, as Serengeti Empress, you take that. And Jaywalk, my take on her is, when you have a bottle of soda, you leave it open in the fridge. Too many good horses. Yeah, there's a lot of good horses in the Kentucky Derby tomorrow. When you leave a bottle of soda opened in the fridge and you take it out, you pour it out, you hope that it's going to be good. And then once you take it and you realize it's disgusting, you dump it out. That's what Jaywalk has been all year. It's pouring out the bottle of soda. You know it's flat, but you're just hoping that you're going to get maybe one more good drink out of it. That's what we've been hoping with Jaywalk. Jaywalk had a good year last year. And most horses Accelerate last year would have been horse of the year if not for Triple Crown winner Justify. Accelerate runs great season last year, 5 grade 1 wins. It was time for him to retire in January. Accelerate ran some good races. Jaywalk ran good races last year. It's just her peak came as a 2-year-old. And there have been too many horses that have come through the years that have peaked too soon. So that's my take on the Kentucky Oaks conversation. She did run 6th. Of course, she ended up finishing last altogether because of the disqualification. I mean, what can you really say about that? You can obviously say she did cause positive spirit to clip heels with her. I am not the biggest fan of holding that against her, but it is what it is. They made the call. It's not like her being 6 or 14 really benefits her much at all, or really affects her much at all. I am now going to get into the Kentucky Derby. Like I said, my pick is game winner. My trifecta is game winner by my standards and Country House. I'm going to take a big shot with him. I like him to round out the trifecta. Country House reminds me of horses from the past, like your, what was the horse's name from 2013? Golden Soul. That's what the horse's name was. Golden Soul and Commanding Curve. Dallas Stewart had ran second 2 consecutive years with big long shots. Golden Soul and, hey, Sketchy the horse guy. He ran big seconds with big long shots, Golden Soul and Commanding Curve. And so Country House kind of fits the mold of your Commanding Curve, Golden Soul, and even Instilled Regard from last year. Not as big of a price, actually a bigger price than both Golden Soul and Commanding Curve. But I will say, I like him to fill out a if you're making a trifecta, you definitely have to have Country House in there somewhere. Trifecta or superfecta, it really doesn't matter where you have him in there. But some of the horses that I want to take a look at. Game Winner. Why do I think Game Winner is so talented? Have you ever considered doing a hangout stream? Not necessarily, but if you want that, I will consider doing that. All right, just checking Instagram right now. All right, so getting back into this, why I like Game Winner so much. Improbable Tacitus Game Winner is your bet. Uh, I don't know. You'd love to talk to your be on your. You'd like to be on my podcast sometime. I can see if that works out. If there's viewer interest, I can definitely see if that's something we would want to take into consideration. I'll think about that. But why I like Game Winner so much. Game Winner has checked off all the boxes for me. He's won a lot of races. Just move this out of the way. Uh, Game Winner's won a lot of races. He's won 3 grade 1s. He's won at Churchill Downs before. That's the big thing. Yeah, I know that's kind of unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is. I don't really care. But getting back to the point, Game Winner, I like him a lot. He's won at Churchill Downs. He's a very tough, gritty horse. If you go back to specifically the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, yeah, he runs wide very well. I will say that Game Winner, that wasn't one of the points that I was going to bring up, but now that you bring that up, Game Winner was very wide in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And he still won from that. But the thing that I like about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile is he showed how tough of a horse he was in that race because Nick's Go was all over him in the stretch. Nick's Go, you like Tax third or fourth, Jose Viegas? I don't know what I think. Like I said in the Tax video, I think Tax is just the kind of horse that's there. And I wasn't originally going to do the live show, so I will round out the why horses won't win the Kentucky Derby series tomorrow. But Tax is a horse that I think is just kind of there. It's another one of those horses. He's in the Kentucky Derby because the field calls for 20 horses. And I don't necessarily think that that's the biggest. I'm not the biggest fan of the fact that the Kentucky Derby kind of artificially increases the amount of horses in there because I don't want to say it's not fair. I just like Tax. I'm just there. Tax can run. I'm not saying that he can't run. I'm just saying that I'm not sure he can go with the talent in some of the horses like Game Winner, Maximum Security. Now, Maximum Security is the horse that I want to talk about. And you guys absolutely killed me when I brought up the possibility of Maximum Security being a rabbit. Now, I didn't necessarily think that Maximum Security would be used as a rabbit. It's something that Jay Privman brought up. But the one thing that I will say about Maximum Security, he is going to decide a lot of this Kentucky Derby. Maximum Security is the only horse that is really 100% guaranteed to be on the lead. You know, Vicoma can run on the lead, cannot run on the lead. It just all depends on the way that Vicoma does it. And I'm actually going to go to Twitter now. I've been on Instagram for a while. No one's really showing up on here. So I'm going to go to Twitter. Just give me a minute while I set that up. I think Maximum Security is a horse to look for, not because he has not because he's great, but because, yeah, he has the great, very nice. I like that point you just brought up there. Maximum Security is going to decide a lot in this Kentucky Derby. He's going to decide who is eventually the winner. And the reason why I didn't think that he was going to win is because I don't think he has the ability to stick it out on the lead. I don't think people are going to let him have an easy early lead. Now, that's not necessarily saying we're going to get a pace like we got, say, 2001 was the last time we had a really smoking pace. Maximum Security is really dangerous. If they let him run on the lead like they let him do in the Florida Derby, then he's gone. Like, the thing that I would say, if you're Gary and Mary West, the thing you're hoping, if they're going to let Maximum Security run alone, then just let him win. To be frank, Serengeti Empress had an easy lead and was the one. Yeah, Serengeti Empress, if she wins that Fairgrounds Oak, she's not. I'm not necessarily saying she's 3-5 because Bellafina was so commanding. I think Bellafina still would have ended up being the favorite. Bellafina, very nice horse if she gets the distance or if she gets the small horse field. But if she doesn't get the small horse, if she gets a large field, Bellafina very suspect. But let me put it this way about Maximum Security: he is going to decide everything. The cutoff point that I put it at is 3/4 of a mile. If after 3/4 of a mile, I would say the pace for it is something like 111. If he goes 111 or if he goes 3/4 in 111, then or I should say greater than 1 minute and 11 seconds, he's toast. He's not going to survive that kind of a pace. But if he gets 111, 112, 113, he could survive that. Serengeti Empress being able to go wire is a sign that Maximum Security's perfect trip isn't out of the question. I don't think it's out of the question because I think a lot of guys are going to have the mindset of, well, let's not push him now. But see, the problem that I have with that is Serengeti Empress collapsed in the stretch. You saw the way Maximum Security opened up in the Florida Derby. And I think that's the one thing that's going to get guys to not necessarily let him get away. Now, I'm not saying that someone is going to sacrifice their horse to go out and make sure Maximum Security doesn't win, because I think a lot of guys are going to put their faith in their horse to catch the front runner. Now, Code of Honor is a type of horse that he has to get a pace to run into. I brought up High Call, and it's unfortunate that High Call had to scratch, but I brought up High Call as a horse that could possibly High Call needed a perfect trip. Code of Honor just needs a pace to run into. The only excuse is that at the beginning, Positive Spirit fell, which could have influenced horses near her and gave Serengeti Empress her shot to take the lead. I don't really think that the fall of Serengeti Empress really had much to do with, or the fall of Positive Spirit had much to do with Serengeti Empress going wire to wire. I just think that Serengeti Empress was very undervalued. Do you think Maximum Security can rate and win the Derby? Asks William B. Wheaton. Yes, I think he can win the Derby. Now, I will say about the why horses won't win the Kentucky Derby series, that was kind of a very cynical, let's find one reason why this horse isn't going to win. I think a lot of you can split the horses up in this field as to probables, pretenders, and horses that don't belong. And I think most of the horses, there's only like 2 or 3 horses that I would throw out of this Kentucky Derby. I would throw out the 2 horses from Dubai, and I would really kind of throw out Master Fencer just because I don't know much about him. And horses from Japan, knocking maximum security for the slow time. No, you should not be knocking maximum security for the slow time. Please tell me who's knocking maximum security for that, because maximum security got a perfect trip in the Florida Derby. That's what you want with the type of horse that maximum security is. Maximum security is the type of horse that gets away. And if he gets away, he's very, very dangerous. So a lot of people, it's probably a lot of people who don't really know what they're talking about, and they're looking at it from a perspective of just the time. You got to admit the horses won't win series quadru. Yeah, I will definitely agree with that. Those were the videos that got me. And they say any kind of you made a video on Master Fencer. Listen, like this whole week has been insane with me. I wanted to finish the videos with uh I wanted to give each horse their own video, but it just wasn't possible. I was going to do a lot, and then Omaha Beach scratched. So, yeah. He was put on, yeah. Someone commented on that, and they're like, you could just say specifically $16,000 claimers don't win the Kentucky Derby. Now, I don't think that the fact that he ran in a $16,000 claiming race had much to do with it, has anything to do with it. Someone said you're holding the fact that he was undefeated against him, and that's just something that I brought up to be cynical. There was that stretch from Spectacular Bid to Fusaichi. Between Spectacular Bid and Fusaichi Pegasus, no favorite won the Derby. But again, like, I don't really care that his first race was a claimer. I think he's a nobody because he finished in the money in 2,000 meters from Japan. Yeah, I think Master Fencer is a nobody, and I really don't like that Japanese road to the Kentucky Derby series. I think if they want to run in the Derby badly enough, then just make them run in Dubai. I think I think that definitely diluted the quality of this field. There's one horse in there that's just an absolute cookie that you can throw out. Now, maximum security can go faster if you see his yeah, maximum security can go faster. Then that's what Jay said, because Jay brought that up, and he said game. I believe the tweet was, at the very least, game winner has his rabbit. So I think he's. Oh, you're still talking about that. That's the same comment, but yeah. So is maximum security is the type of horse that definitely decides a lot, but Jay, like people were saying to Jay, like the time in the Florida Derby does not necessarily speak to a rabbit. I feel like Roadster has more versatility than people give him credit. He's not a dead closer all the time, have been closer to the lead. Yeah. Roadster, I think another horse that benefits from the scratch of high call is Roadster. Does that actually push Roadster back out to the 17 post? Because he got pushed in by the scratch of Omaha. I think that actually pushes him back out to the 17 post. So, how much of an effect do you think the rain will have? I don't really know how much of an effect the rain will have. Have any of the horses in the Kentucky Derby run on the slop? I actually completely forgot that it's going to rain tomorrow. So, yeah, William said no. I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect on it. Losing Mike for Roadster, yeah, I definitely think that hurts, but I will say, though, I feel bad for Corey Lanerie. He's waited a long time to win a Kentucky Derby. And, Mike Smith is obviously the better rider than Corey Lanerie. One series I'm going to do soon is horse versus horse, which will compare and contrast two better horses. Two horses and see which one is better. You know what you should do? A suggestion for that: do Sunday Silence in Easy Goer, because that happened 30 years ago. You can make a 30-year anniversary video. At some point over the next 5 weeks, I am going to make a 30th anniversary video for that. You think win-win-win is or contender or winner just underneath? Yeah, that is a great idea. I will do that, and I will definitely, if you want me to give you some advice on that, Sketchy, please DM me on either YouTube, Twitter, whatever. That's a very good idea, because that's a debate that I'm sure a lot of people still have. I brought that up. I forget which video I brought that up in, but you still get the ardent easy goer supporters that say, not that I want to make this about Sunday Silence and easy goer, but you still get your ardent easy goer supporters who say that easy goer is the better horse. I can DM you. Yeah, I'm some stupid sketch guy. I don't want to forget Jose's question though. He asked if win 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 is a contender to win or just underneath. I think win 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 is just a contender. I think win 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 is the kind of horse that fills out a trifecta. Sketchy, I will say though, you can give me credit if you want. I'm not going to ask you to give me credit because that's an individual idea, but that is a suggestion that I will give you, and I will help you if you want any help with that. My take is the record on the track shows Sunday Silence 3, Easy Goer 1, but like like we always say in horse racing, it's deeper than just first, second, third. If you were to bet maximum security, what would be a fair price for him? I would say something like 7-1. I don't think maximum security is going to be a favorite right now. What are the odds right now? I got to pull up the odds. I don't have my iPad, which I usually have in front of me when I stream. No one's on Twitter, so I'm gonna just end the live stream on Twitter and just keep going on Instagram, or not on Instagram, on YouTube. Win 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 is gonna be like my boy Jack and sudden breaking. Really, really, I have a lot of people thinking that by my standards is gonna be the my boy Jack from last year. You'll get 10-1. I'm gonna pull the odds up right now. I should probably have the Kentucky Derby odds in front of me right now. I actually did go with my boy Jack last year because that is my name. So last I checked, 10-1. All right, Kentucky Derby 2019 odds. But my boy, that was just kind of a let's pick that horse for fun. Master Fencer, if you get anything less than 50-1 on Master Fencer. Now, if you're someone who likes the big price, Master Fencer, go ahead, take your shot. Uh right now, maximum security is at 8-1. If it gets up to double digits, at some point, could you make all your podcasts live or make more live streams? I'd like to talk to you more. Yeah, I will definitely be doing more live stream. Now that I got this took so long to set up. I will definitely make a live stream. If you guys want more live streams, I will definitely make more live streams. I was planning to have a live stream for the Preakness. I will not be live streaming the Kentucky Derby live tomorrow because I do have guests and stuff tomorrow for the Kentucky Derby, but I will definitely go live after the Kentucky Derby tomorrow and give my reactions to it. Podcasts, I'm not sure if I will make those live. I can see about it, not for the foreseeable moment right now. I would love one live stream a week or at minimum every other week. I will consider that once I get everything figured out. I do also have a Twitch channel. I'm not currently live streaming on that right now, but definitely I will get more deeply involved. And I have been reaching out to people, so I will be having some guests on this. I'm not going to disclose who, but I have been reaching out to people. So at some point, Racing Rundown will have some live guests. So you have that to look forward to. But let me take a look at the odds for each of them. War of Will 15. I don't like that. I think that's going to end up being higher, and I don't like War of Will at all. Even though he is going to get the number 2 post position, I don't think that that's going to benefit him much at all. Tax 20-1. Eh, by my standards, I think that's going to go down 15-1 right now. Like I said, I think him, like you said, him and win 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 are kind of the trendy upset picks. Now, Vcoma, like I said, in the full analyst video, I kind of ignored Vcoma, which that was completely my fault. I don't plan out my videos, and I definitely should. My secondary account, I've gotten like 1,000 views, but my most view on my main channel is 630. I'm surprised that I've gotten. I don't even know what. I think my Tacitus video is my most popular. Tacitus is the horse that got me all the views. Which, uh, by the way, all viewers, commenters, whoever, I really appreciate all your support with this. I did not think that Racing Rundown was going to get this successful this fast. So I really appreciate it. I think we're going to end up breaking 1,000 by the end of the week. We're definitely going to. I will say this, and I will guarantee this, that we will break 1,000 before the Belmont Stakes. So that is what it is. Let me see. Since I began making my Derby. Yeah. No, because the Kentucky Derby is so everyone watches the Kentucky Derby, so they know the horse is in there. So they'll type in the horse's name and they'll see your video. So definitely, yeah, Tacitus is my most popular video. I'm sub. Thank you. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your subscription. Yeah, because originally, like the videos that I was making the case for Racing Immortality series, and that's all fine and well and good. But really, the only people who were gonna watch those were guys were, and down the stretch they come. Come, racing rundown close to reaching 1000K. Yeah, we're at 844 right now, so definitely tell your friends to subscribe. Anything is appreciated. Like I said, but Kentucky Derby. If you want to if you are looking into horse racing and you want to get a channel and you want to get some following, definitely make videos about the Kentucky Derby because that is going to get you a lot of people trafficking you. But where were we? Remind me where we were. Um, so really my take on this is let's see who some of the stuff is going on. A lot of people like Improbable. The thing that I would say about Improbable is, and this is something that we saw in the Arkansas Derby, he kind of melted down in the Arkansas Derby. And he still ran a very nice second, although Jose Ortiz had to use the horse significantly in order to what am I trying to say? Jose Ortiz had to use the horse significantly to catch up to Omaha Beach, and he still only lost by a length. So Improbable, very impressive in defeat in the Arkansas Derby. But again, Improbable, I just think there's a lot of horses that are better than Improbable. For short, you can just call me Sketchy. Thank you. I'll call you that, Sketchy. Uh, we'll get a yeah. Simon Callaghan just said that Bella Fina is going to get a break. I think if I'm Simon Callaghan, I try to hold her on the East Coast or on the West Coast. She's going to have a lot of small fields to deal with, and I would say that's your best bet. Hiding her in California and going from there. I think you kind of bite the bullet. I think you're my favorite racing channel. I really appreciate that. You know, I this wasn't originally going to. I really didn't really know what my expectations were for Racing Rundown, but they've definitely far exceeded what I thought I was going to get this early. I know, like, the Why Horses Won't Win the Kentucky Derby series has definitely been a very controversial series. And next year, it's going to be Why Horses Will Win the Kentucky Derby. So maybe that's a little bit less controversial. But either way, people are going to disagree with you. So you can't be paralyzed by being wrong. That's the one thing I will say. Uh, so where were we at? I'll say Why Horses Won't Win the Kentucky. It's mildly click. It wasn't originally supposed to be clickbait, though. It didn't have the. I know a lot of people were accusing me of clickbait. That wasn't originally my intention with it. It was just to say why horse. I got the idea from someone a couple years ago who did videos on why each presidential candidate wasn't going to win the election. I just saw that pop up in feeds. Derby is a toss up. May as well take the champ. Blinkers off. Blinkers off. I don't think it's going to help or hurt Improbable. I I can understand why Bob Baffert tried to experiment with the blinkers in the Arkansas Derby because you saw Improbable kind of pull himself up. And that's kind of why I think he got beat by Long Range Toddy because he was looking around, didn't see anyone, wasn't really focused. And Long Range Toddy just kind of caught him. And I do want to just quickly mention Long Range Toddy. He is another one of those live long shots. One thing you need to, yeah, no, I know that really, really aggravates me when I do that. I really apologize if I do that. Sometimes don't, sometimes I don't do that, and I've gone back and I've seen videos for that, and it's what software editing do you use? I'm on a very, very cheap budget right now. I use Movie Maker. I hate Movie Maker, but it's what I have to work with. So if you have any suggestions to stuff that's not Movie Maker, I hate Movie Maker, and I'm looking for something better, but I don't have the money to pay for it. and paying for better equipment is going to come before getting a better editing software. But definitely that is something that I do have to be more careful about. I use iMovie, so I'm a cheapskate, but I make the most. Yeah, I try to make the most out of Movie Maker. I don't pay for anything right now. Once I eventually do get a budget, what do you think of Cutting Humor's chances of hitting the board with Mike Smith? I think my Cutting Humor picking up Mike Smith is something that I would say is a very good thing for him. Do I necessarily think that Cutting Humor is any more likely to win the Derby than he was with Corey Lanery? Eh, give or take. But Cutting Humor picking up Mike Smith. Mike Smith is definitely a better rider than Corey Lanery. So, I think that maybe people will see Mike Smith and that might bring his odds, excuse me, that might bring his odds down. Yeah, Kirk said beats Lanery. Again, Corey Lanery is a fine rider. It's just Corey Lanery's not a 26-time Breeders' Cup winner and 4-time. What if Mike Smith pulls up Giacomo with? I don't want to say that Cutting Humor is going to pull a Giacomo because Cutting Humor, I think, is not going to be as big of a price as Giacomo. But I would not be surprised. It's Mike Smith. Mike Smith is one of the greatest jockeys ever. I still contend, even though he doesn't have the Kentucky or the Triple Crown race wins that Eddie Arcaro does. Bill Shoemaker's the best jockey. But the past couple of years, Mike Smith has been making a run at that. And at some point, over the summer, I will make a video, and you guys can just throw out who you think are some of the best jockeys ever. My guy, Gary Stevens, he's my favorite jockey ever, but I think Bill Shoemaker is still the best jockey ever to run in America. Lester Piggott, I think, is the best jockey of all jockeys in any country, whatever. So uh, that's it for me. If you guys have any questions about certain plays, horses you should pick or anything, feel free to ask them. Just if you have any questions about anything. Johnny V 6,000 wins. Johnny V, I read something the other day. I forget when this was. Uh, Johnny V was like, he was saying, I forget where this was and when this was, but Johnny was like, I can't imagine myself running or riding past 47. Well, he's 47 now, 6,000 wins later, and 12 Breeders' Cup wins. He's not going away anytime soon. I think, Frankie Dettori said during the Breeders' Cup last year, I think both Mike and you're going to get another 5 years out of us. Hopefully, if all goes well, maybe we get another 10 years out of Johnny V. Now, I'm still hoping for a guy who is a horse racing fan. I'm hoping that Mike Smith can get 4 Breeders' Cup wins before he retires. Now, having an offer, we will be getting a Breeders' Cup profile series. I'm not necessarily going to do every horse, but I will go through every race, even the races that I think don't belong existing, like the Breeders' Cup Dirt. That's a question I want to ask you guys about right now. And I know we'll talk a lot more about the Breeders' Cup, but what's your opinion on the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile? I think the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile is kind of ends up just being a consolation prize for horses that don't want to run in the Breeders' Cup Classic or the Breeders' Cup Sprint. What do you think of your exponential growth? Asked Sketchy. I had no idea. I had no idea that I was going to get to this much success this early. So that's really what I have to say. I'm flattered by it, and I'm glad. I'm just a guy from Connecticut who runs a dead end horse racing podcast. So it's flattering the amount of people that ride or that watch it. Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint is unnecessary. Now that is something that I will disagree with you on, Sketchy. I think the original format of the Breeders' Cup, the 7 races, was very good. I think you could have had a Breeders' Cup and just left it at 7 races and never changed it. Then in 1999, they added the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. I don't know why that wasn't a thing. Like they probably originally may have called it a Breeders' Cup Turf Distaff. Why that was never a thing? I don't know. I think that if you ask my honest opinion, I go back and you say go back to the original Breeders' Cup and you can make any kind of changes to it. The only changes that I would make is I would add a turf sprint for the great sprinters from Europe, because you remember in 1999, the tragic 1999 Breeders' Cup, uh, De Jure, now, of course, that race was marred by the two horses that died in the 1990 Breeders' Cup sprint, so no one really cared that much about the outcome. But De Jure was going to win that race. De Jure jumped a shadow and safely ended up winning. If those shadows aren't there, De Jure wins the race. So, and also if there's a turf sprint, De Jure wins it. So, if you ask me, I would add a Breeders' Cup turf sprint. I would add a filly and mare sprint on the dirt. I don't know why that was never a thing. Those were the two races that I really say I don't know why they weren't there at the beginning. A Breeders' Cup turf sprint and a filly and mare sprint on the dirt. Now, I have no idea why the Breeders' Cup filly and mare or the juvenile filly and juvenile turf are a thing because I mean, is that really necessary? I don't know. We'll talk more about the Breeders' Cup going forward. The Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile is a counterpart to the Breeders' Cup Mile. I know it's a counterpart to the Dirt Mile, but I just don't think that the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile is. I just don't think that there's enough horses that fit the profile of milers in this country. A long-time racing fan, a lot of young people like yourself getting involved with horse racing. I will say a lot of people have asked me, how did you get involved with it? California Chrome is the first horse that I really got involved with. And I miss California Chrome's Kentucky Derby, but I remember watching his Preakness and I remember watching his Belmont Stakes. And then I got into it with American Pharoah. And really, American Pharoah is what kind of launched me into horse racing. And I'm surprised it took me this long to get this involved with horse racing, like making content about it and everything. But American Pharoah is kind of what launched me on horse racing. There is better value on the undercard. Love the two and number 13 after the Derby. You like the races after the Derby? I would say I like Bricks and Mortars a lot in the Turf Classic, which is the undercard. Love of Sketchy. Is that because of Zenyatta? Because I'm sure a lot of people got into it because of Zenyatta. Zenyatta's an absolutely great horse. Long-time racing fan. A lot of young people like yourself getting involved with horses. Yeah, I already addressed that. I mean, like I said, it's a niche sport, but every sport is every sport that's not the NFL is a niche sport. So a lot of people were talking about how horse racing is dead, and they took the ratings from the end of the Breeders' Cup, or not the end of the Breeders' Cup, the end of the Triple Crown last year, and they said, "Oh, well, this didn't save horse racing." Yeah, definitely Zenyatta, but the Breeders' Cup Marathon was my first Breeders' Cup race I watched. The Breeders' Cup, I don't know why that was ever a thing, the Breeders' Cup Marathon. That is even more ridiculous than the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. As ridiculous as I think the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile is, and I don't really think it's that ridiculous. Like, it's fine. I mean, I'm a traditionalist in everything. Like, in baseball, I don't understand why we have to have the American League and the National League both have a designated hitter. Let's just leave it the way it is. Why change what isn't broken? So, as much as I'm a tradition, and I think that, like I said, I think the three races that should have originally been added were a grass race for 3-year-old fillies and mares, a dirt sprint for 3-year-old fillies and mares, and then a turf sprint for the Europeans. And then everything else I could do without. The Breeders' Cup Marathon, though, was the first Breeders' Cup race. Yeah, I mean, they're Breeders' Cup races. You got Rajiv Mirage. One of his only Breeders' Cup wins is uh, he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Now, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Sprint was. I think the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Sprint is very obnoxious. Now, here's another question that I want to ask you guys: how long do you think the Juvenile Turf Sprint lasts? I'm not sure how long that race lasts. I don't know, maybe like 5, 10 years. But really, so who will be on the lead turning for the juvenile turf is a feel. Yeah, I feel like it's a decently important race. I mean, if you have juveniles for American horse, I will answer your question in a minute, Kirk. I just want to end the Breeders' Cup competition because I mean we're going to be beating the dead horse with the Breeders' Cup because I've been talking Kentucky Derby since I started this back in January. We're going to be beating as soon as the Belmont Stakes is over. We're going to be beating the Breeders' Cup to death. My favorite horse of all time, Lit to Justice. Check out the 90. Was that the horse that Corey Nakatani rode? Because I know Corey Nakatani won one of the Breeders' Cup races in 1996, and they were talking about the comeback. So Kirk asked me who is on the lead turning for home in the Kentucky Derby tomorrow. I think Maximum Security is still on the lead at that point. And I think he's got a bunch of horses making runs at him. I would say, oh, and if you guys also don't follow, uh, I also do have a blog site. It is the name Racing Rundown. It's on WordPress.com. I am going through each Wednesday, and I have not released the last two on Wednesday. I actually have to do that once this is over. But I'm going through each year. I'm releasing every week in commemoration of 35 years of Breeders' Cup. I am releasing something each week for every week until the Breeders' Cup in commemorate the best moment from each Breeders' Cup. Not necessarily the best moment, but a moment to my choice of for every Breeders' Cup. I'm going to be releasing the one about Ali Sheba, and for a guilty pleasure of mine is a Telfar, thanks to the Breeders' Cup Marathon. Yeah. Can Max handle wet? I don't see anything wrong with it. Paul LaDuca was saying this on Fox Sports Saturday at the races. By the way, I love Paul LaDuca. Very knowledgeable person. He was saying that the wet track tends to carry horses like that. And I would agree with him. So Maximum Security, I think, while we have Maximum Security has raced on a sloppy track and he's undefeated. So I would say yes. The wet track is not going to be an issue for him. And I think he definitely handles it very nicely. Uh so who do I think is going to be on the lead turning for home? I keep getting sidetracked with that, with the other comments that are coming in, but who is on the lead? I think Maximum Security is still on the lead. Maybe Vekoma is pushing him. I think Vekoma is kind of close to the lead. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people in a hurry to get to the lead in the Kentucky Derby, but I think I think there's a lot of people that are going to be in the position like right in the stalking area. So, like I said, while I don't think there's going to be a lot of horses on the lead, like it's not going to be a cavalry charge. I think it's Maximum Security, and there's maybe like one or two horses pushing him. Maybe I will say about War of Will not being in the one position, or excuse, not being right on the rail. Maybe that alleviates him a little bit more, but I still think being on the inside. Hey, Christopher, just a second. I'll get to my superfecta. War of Will isn't too much better. Wait, War of Will. Well, War of Will's still going from the number one post, but with the scratch of high call, all the horses are moving over one. So the post position that's right on the rail is going to be vacated. So War of will be going into the number two post, but it's going to be marked number one. Yeah, Corey. Yeah, I thought Corey Nakatani rode lit to justice. Oh, what am I? Oh, what? Why am I pronouncing? It's Lita Justice. Why am I'm so sorry. I that completely. Yeah, that now that I think of it, I wasn't really thinking straight. Lita Justice is actually the name of the horse, and I sound like the most ignorant person ever for calling it Lit to Justice, and I feel really stupid now. But yeah, that was a really, really good Breeders' Cup sprint. Corey Nakatani ran a great race in that last to first. Not something you often see in a 6 furlong race. Tom Durkin also had a very good call for that. If you guys uh, are not subscribed to him already, the YouTube channel, it's just horse racing, has a video of Tom Durkin's greatest Breeders' Cup calls. He has omitted some of them, some of his best calls, but it's generally a very good compilation of all the best Breeders' Cup calls of Tom Durkin. I suggest checking that out. I feel like Zenyatta's the greatest one trick. Why do you think Zenyatta's a one trick pony? You just, I do want to answer Christopher's question though. He just tuned in. My superfecta is game winner by my standards, Country House and Code of Honor. Spanspa, I just answered that right before you tuned in. Superfecta, game winner by my standards, Country House, and every single time she. Oh, I know what you're saying by one trick. I know what you're saying. I thought you were saying by one trick pony. She had one good race. I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure Zenyatta won 19 out of 20 races, not a one trick pony. I will type in my superfecta though for people who show up late. and most of them were on synthetic track, which favor closer. Yeah, Zenyatta definitely benefited from racing in Southern California. And it does tell that although you cannot say that Zenyatta is a Lava Man type that can only win in Cal. Zenyatta's not best pal in Lava Man. Zenyatta won. She won twice. She ran 3 times. She won twice. So I'm just gonna type this in for people who show up late. Game winner by my standards. By my standards, Country House and Country House and Code of Honor. Now, the reason why I have Code of Honor running fourth is just because I think Country House is the ultra deep closer. Improbable Cutting Humor Game Winner Roadster. That's not a bad superfecta. I mean, I'm not going to say that anyone's superfecta is bad because it's your choice what to pick. Cutting Humor definitely is going to benefit a lot from picking up Mike Smith. And, when I said this, I was not even going to try to guess. She isn't a Lava Man, that's for sure. She won the Apple Blossom in her final star. She navigated decently, only just missing out. Yeah, Zenyatta had a lot of traffic issues, and eventually, I'm not forecasting when that's going to be out, but spoiler alert, the 2010 Breeders' Cup. What other moment is it going to be? Zenyatta in the Breeders' Cup Classic that is covered my 2010 for 35 years of Breeders' Cup. If Improbable cannot be reined in, might get an. Improbable has been too eager in the morning. That is something that I would be concerned about, but I don't know. I saw 2 sets of algorithms, and they had both Improbable, and they both had Improbable as the winner. Zenyatta's final race truly is one of the saddest races I've ever seen. Yeah, you could tell, and I laugh at this whenever I hear this part when Jerry Bailey was on the Fox Sports set. He's like, you kind of think back to the 2004 Belmont Stakes and Smarty Jones and the 120,000 people so upset about him losing. Yeah, Jerry, shut up. You caused that upset. And I don't want to. I know Jerry after that race said that it's not what you think. Like I wasn't trying to sacrifice my horse. Jerry Bailey was doing every bit of that. But yeah, definitely Zenyatta, one of the saddest moments. I will say probably one of the saddest moments that didn't involve the fatality of a horse, because obviously, like I will say, 1990 Breeders' Cup, most tragic day in American horse racing history. Awful, awful what happened. I do have the 1990 Breeders' Cup and the 2001 Breeders, and those are the 2 Breeders' Cups that I own because those are the 2 ones. I wanted to hear the post-race I wanted to have those because of the post-race coverages of the stuff that happened in them. And then I also have the 2001 Breeders' Cup because of the general atmosphere after September the 11th. And with some of my guests that I will eventually have on the show, I've never heard the 1990 Breeders' Cup as being a particularly horrible. What exactly happened? Johnny V and Suge again. I got Orb. I will get back to you in a minute. Johnny V and Suge. Yeah, I did. A lot of people were concerned that Johnny was going to leave Code of Honor to be loyal to Todd Pletcher. Johnny did that in 2013, and I don't think he's was going to do that again. Sketchy 1990 Breeders' Cup. Go. 3 horses died in 7 races at the Breeders' Cup. 2 in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and then Go for One. If you want to, it's obviously a horrible sight. Go for One breaking down in the middle of a stretch battle with Bayakoa. But if you want to look that up and you're okay with it, go ahead and look it up. Yeah, you remember now. Yep, Go for One. But yeah, so that's the 1990 Breeders' Cup, and then 2001 was all the stuff with post 9/11 and everything. Now, I will say it is kind of ironic, and it's also fitting that the 1990 Breeders' Cup or the 2001 Breeders' Cup, excuse me, was at Belmont Park. Johnny V and Suge again, though. I would not be surprised if Johnny Velasquez and Suge McGahee did it again. So I think I'll go for another 10 minutes. If you guys just want to keep like asking me questions about it, we're beating the dead horse enough. Like I said, if you missed my earlier reaction to it, if you and also if you don't follow me on Twitter, you should go follow me on Twitter at Rundown Racing. That is where you can get my most up to date opinions. Code of Honor training up a storm. I really liked Code of Honor. The two horses that I liked coming into the Fountain of Youth, and again, this is another plug for Twitter. I tweeted before the Fountain of Youth. I think he will be an overlay. I think it was an overlay too. Draw a line through his life. Yeah, no, definitely draw a line through the Fountain of Youth. He had no, or excuse me, the Florida Derby. Honestly, yeah, it's so yeah. No, that race was awful. That was awful. And someone who someone who's used to seeing stuff like that, that's awful. That Breeders' Cup was awful, but Code of Honor, yeah, definitely draw a line through the Florida Derby. No reason that should be held against him. He had absolutely no pace to run into. Code of Honor, I've liked him a lot. I think he's going to get a faster pace. I think he's going to get something to run into, and him getting something to run into is going to produce him at least a fair shot to win. Maybe not necessarily win, but I think he's, excuse me again, I think he's going to hit the board. Uh, but yeah, so if you don't follow me on Twitter, you should follow me on Twitter at Rundown Racing. Someone else has the Racing Rundown name. What will be the half mile at the? Oh, that's a. What are some of the favorites that do not like the wet track? I don't really know that you could say any of the horses in the Derby this year don't like the wet track. What will the half mile be? Now, if you guys have anything to answer Chris's question of what you think the favorites are going to do, I don't know what the favorites are going to do with a wet track. I know uh, Omaha Beach was tested on a wet track, and I wouldn't say that Improbable wasn't handling it. I would just say that Omaha Beach was better than him. But back to Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you should follow me at Rundown Racing. That's the name, not Racing Rundown. Someone else has that name. That is where you can get my most up-to-date opinions. I tweet out picks every weekend, and then I interact with people a lot on Twitter too. What will be the half mile in the Kentucky Derby? I do want to answer William's question. Uh, I would say 46 would be a safe half mile because I don't want to say last year it was 45, and the pace last year got consistently slower. So I think what's going to end up happening this year is I don't think it's going to be a crush of early speed, but I don't think it's going to be. You think it's going to be 47? I feel like Go for Wand was worse than Ruffian because at least Ruffian didn't fall, just break down. Go for Wand just fell. If we're gonna stay on the Go for Wand topic, you like a 47 quarter? I think it's gonna be a little faster than 47. I don't know why people think that Maximum Security is gonna get it clean. I mean, I understand why he's dangerous and all, and I'm not denying the fact that he's not a dangerous horse, but Maximum Security definitely I don't think he's going to get the trip he got in the Florida Derby. As much as you draw a line through Code of Honor and a horse that I really, really thought had a very good shot if he could have gotten in is Bourbon War. And I will be talking a lot about Bourbon War over the coming weeks. I think as soon as name Name the most overrated horse you can think of. Me, it's Arrogate. Oh, Arrogate is a very overrated horse, but I will say this, and this is a very unpopular opinion. I have gotten killed for this before. I have not uploaded this video on Racing Rundown before, and as much as I really like her, the last filly to win the Kentucky Derby, Winning Colors, is a horse that I would say is very, very overrated. You can come at me for that, but I will say Winning Colors is a very overrated horse. But Arrogate definitely, I will agree with you. Arrogate is a very overrated horse. If you want a good article to read on that, you can go to Horse Racing Nation. Go to Horse Racing Nation. The title of the article is "Arrogate: A Good Horse Saddled with Unrealistic Expectations." I'll actually comment the link to that. Winning Colors like Zenyatta is a one-trick pony. What do you think of another twist of fate? I think it's unfortunate that another twist of fate isn't in the Kentucky Derby this year. I think he had a real shot if he was in, and I think once again it's unfortunate that we have these maidens like uh the maidens like what's his name, Bodie Express and Master Fencer from Japan, and not quality American stakes winners like another twist of fate. Now, I will say, and this is a problem with the point system, I think the Sunland Park Derby needs to be a 100-point prep race. I don't know why it's not, because I mean, I don't really know. I think that the Sunland Park Derby should be a 100-point race. The Tampa Bay Derby, I understand it being a 50-point race because there's enough time in between that you can realistically run. But Another Twist of Fate got kind of pushed in really quickly. The other thing that I think is unfair, and I talked about this in the podcast when I did the video about the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and I will get to your Another Twist of Fate, what I think about him going into the Preakness. Do you think that, yeah, I think that Jim Beam should get its 50-point status back. That's the thing that I was going to get on. I think it's unfair to make the horses that are synthetic horses try multiple times on dirt. I think if you're the best horse on synthetics, you should get an ultimate. I get 100. I got 100. How should I bet at and who just for good ideas? Well, I will give you some advice with $100, but if I end up costing you $100, that I'll give you some advice, but I don't necessarily want to put your money in put your money in my hands, but I will definitely give you some advice. But back to Another Twist of Fate. I think he's got a real shot to win the Preakness. Now, some like it Hot Brown. I think the Jeff Ruby should get his 50-point status back. The El Camino Real Derby, I'm okay with that being a 10-point. Make that a 20-point race and make the some like it Hot Brown Stakes. That horse is not going to have a stakes race named after him. No worries, I'm 57 years old. Hey, and nothing wrong with that. Lester Piggott was 58 when he won. How old was Lester Piggott when he won the Guineas in 1992? Uh, Another Twist of Fate, though. I think he's got a real shot to win the Preakness. Make the El Camino Real Derby 20 points. Make the Jeff Ruby Stakes 50 points. But Another Twist of Fate, really like him in the Preakness. Some of the other new shooters, I think the two new shooters to take seriously are Always Mining. I have not talked about Always Mining that much, but Always Mining and Another Twist of Fate are the two new shooters that I think are horses that you should really take seriously. Other horses like Sueño, is Sigelman running in the Preakness? I'm not sure if he was pointed or not, but I'm not too high on Sueño. But definitely, I think Another Twist of Fate is something that you should definitely take seriously. I already answered that. I got 100. How should I? So, I mean, you've got 100. You can go a lot of different routes with that. You could obviously, I would put some money on Game Winner because, like I said earlier, Game Winner checks all the boxes. He's run at Churchill. He's running the big field, and that's the difference between him and Bella Fina. Bella Fina cannot win against large fields. Game Winner has run against a 14 horse field in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and a I'm not sure how many horses were in the Rebel Stakes. If anyone does know how many horses were in the Division 2 of the Rebel Stakes, please drop it in the comments. But I think Another Twist of Fate. I'm still on him. I think Game Winner is a horse that you should definitely play. I would play Country House because I think Country House is the best long shot. I don't like some of the other ones like By My Standards and Win Win Win. I don't think you're going to get enough of a price out of them. But I also think you shouldn't ignore horses like Maximum Security. So you got stuff like that. Sketchy asked me, what races do you think should be added to the Derby series? That's a tough one. I think some of the races that I would say, maybe add the Illinois Derby back to that. I don't know. Is the Illinois Derby still run in the time where, uh, is the Illinois Derby still run in a realistic time frame where you could use that as a prep, or has the time frame been moved since the prep race things have been added? Comment in there what you guys think the prep races, what prep races should be added to the Kentucky Derby. Uh, Now one thing that I wasn't the biggest fan, and I think the Gray Stakes up at Woodbine, and I forget what the Philly version of that race is moved. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now that I was thinking about it, because the Illinois Derby was moved. Okay, so the Illinois Derby wouldn't be some. I really don't know then. What races are there that you could add that are not already races? Um, I don't really know. I would say I like the way the current point system. I like the races that are involved in the point system. There were 10 and yeah, so he's running against big fields. So I like Game Winner against big fields. So Game Winner checks all, and like I said earlier, he checks all the boxes. Oh yeah, that was a race a couple years ago, Delta Downs Jackpot. Now some of the 2-year-old races I'm not really as disappointed about. Like I think you could have the Gray Breeders' Cup, that used to be the Gray Breeders' Cup Stakes, the Gray Stakes up at Woodbine, and the Philly counterpart to that. I think those could be added. But really, honestly, I mean, what races are there? Maybe you could add the if you insist on having the Jeff Ruby Stakes be 20 points, then add the prep race for that. I think that's the John Battaglia Stakes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the John Battaglia Stakes. Delta Downs Jackpot, definitely something that you could consider to add. Um, I don't know why. Maybe the Del Mar Futurity, but if you added the Del Mar Futurity, then you would add all the races like the Hopeful Stakes. And I'm not too disappointed that the Del Mar Futurity doesn't have. The problem with the point system is that we have, yeah, that is something that a lot of people have talked about, is that we have no spread. See, the way that the old system worked, and it was very convoluted, is that you would have horses that would enter and not be allowed to. Why can't you add that? It is a sprint. What? It's been said that any horse going into the Kentucky Derby with 5 or more starts is 1 for 24 to win the Kentucky. That is something to bring up, but Game Winner I think he hasn't shown the kind of tail off that some of the horses in the past, some of the 2-year-old champions in the past have. Now, uh, a horse that I think was a little bit better than some people give him credit for. What do you think of Road Scholar tomorrow? I assume you're asking about Roadster. That I think you auto corrected to Road Scholar. If you're asking about Roadster, I think Roadster might have a bit of a Bellafina problem. Not used to the big field, and really that's it. I think Roadster hasn't run against a big field, not really the most experienced, but Roadster is a horse definitely to take seriously. The I want to get back to Bill Conklin and his point about the point system doesn't have any more sprinters in the Kentucky Derby, and that is a thing. That is a thing that is definitely a problem. We have not had a very hot pace. The fastest Kentucky Derby since I'm gonna use the 2001 Kentucky Derby that was 1 minute 59, the one that was set up by, remember Mr. Frisky being 16. Yeah, well, Mr. Frisky 16 for 16 going into the Kentucky Derby was against a bunch of cookie horses in Puerto Rico, and I would not, I was not around for 1990, so I don't really know much about Mr. Frisky's races in California, but I do. That's not to say that I don't know about Mr. Frisky. The California field wasn't as strong in 1990, and the best horses were on the East Coast. Who do you think should be on the board? Another twist of fate for the second Triple Crown race. Um, who do you think should be on the board? Another twist of fate on board. Oh, that's what you're asking. On board another. I don't really know who I would say should be on another twist of fate. I wasn't really understanding what you were asking there. I'll answer that question in a minute, though. I just want to finish my point about the sprinters. Um, I'm going to use the 2001 Kentucky Derby as a reference. You remember that was one of the only 2 races that has been run under 2 minutes, and that was because you had Song and a Prayer, who set the fastest opening quarter mile in Kentucky Derby history, 44 and 4/5 seconds. I don't know exactly what the split was for that, but you got where are we on here? I passed it on Wikipedia. So 159, then you had 201, 201, 204, 202, 201. So you haven't had a Kentucky Derby in under 2 minutes one since then, and really the general mean of it is around 202. So I think the fact that I don't think there's going to be another race like the 2001 Kentucky Derby for a while, because like you said, and that's a very good point, is that with the graded earnings system, as convoluted as that was, it was a better I don't want to say that it was a better system. The Kentucky Derby point system is easier for people to understand, and it's more clear cut. This horse has 100 points, this horse has 50 points, this horse has 30 points. So it's more clear cut. But I will say that I think the graded earning system allowed for a more diverse field. Now, you think about it, in the current environment today, Charismatic would not have gotten in because the Lexington Stakes is a 20-point race and not a 50-point or a 100-point race. So Charismatic runs third in the Santa Anita. If we go by the current, if I bet my 100 to win on game winner, what's my return if he wins? I don't know. I'm not a math person at all. I'm taking the SATs tomorrow, so I have no idea how to do math. So if someone wants to do the math for that for me, what are the odds on game winner right now? Uh, I gotta pull up the odds on game winner. Mr. Frisky was trained by my uncle in Puerto Rico. He ran in the Derby with a throat infection that was Las Barrera's mistake for not checking the horse out. Yeah. See, that's the thing. 299 to win. Thank you, Seth. At some point, I'll make a list of my top 5 greatest winning streaks of all time. That's a very good list to make. But so as convoluted as the sprint or as convoluted as the graded earning system was, I think it was kind of better. What's he going to pay? Someone just tweeted $290 when Trinidberg made the Kentucky Derby on sprint races, and that's why they changed the system. 5-1. Okay, so he's 5-1. You'll make 290. So I just want to finish my point, and then I got to get to William's question on who do I think should ride another twist of fate. What I would say is I think you should make more kind of I think you should allow for at least a sprinter to be in the Kentucky Derby because you don't want to have crawl in Kentucky. You want to have them be competitive. But I don't think you're gonna I mean, there's a reason the Derby's only been run under 2 minutes because it's not something that happens a lot. But I think the Derbies are always kind of very predictable. So if they made provisions to allow more diverse horses in, that would be better. But I think overall the point system is a improvement over the graded earnings system. Although I do not like the fact that you can have maiden horses like Bodie Express get in. I think what was it, and I'm gonna check this now. Like before the point system, maidens in the Kentucky Derby. Kentucky Derby. Looking this up right now. Maidens in the Kentucky Derby. Looking this up right now. You had obviously there have been 3 maidens to run in the Kentucky Derby. Though you had from 1933 before brokers to from 1993 to 1998, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 horses between 1933 and 1998. And since then, you've had Trojan Nation made in 2016, Sonneteer made in 2017, Bodie Express made in 2016. I can't remember if there was a maiden last year. This hasn't been updated. I don't think there was, but because in Stilled Regard, the longest shot did win the Lecomte Stakes. Uh, but that's enough on the point system. I think it is a general improvement, but there are some things that can be fixed about it. Who do I think should ride another twist of fate? I have no idea, but I will let you know over the coming days who I think should ride another twist of fate. At this moment, I don't want to make any predictions on it. Now this guy, your uncle trained Mr. Frisky in Puerto Rico. That's interesting. How long has your uncle is your uncle still training horses or does he not train anymore? But I will say big props to Richard Mandela for scratching Omaha Beach because they very easily could have said this is the Kentucky Derby. And Richard Mandela, keep in mind, has been trying to win the Kentucky Derby his whole life. And he put the horse before everything else. And he did that in the Breeders' Cup Classic with Beholder. And he did that again with Omaha Beach. So props to him. I know it's disappointing and we wanted to see him run, but I will say definitely he did the right thing for the horse. Uh let's see. Where are we on the comments? I kind of got lost. Yeah, I don't remember Trinidberg per se because I had not gotten into horse racing at that point. So Trinidberg, I'll take your word for it, but I want to know. But game winner was 1-2 versus Omaha Beach, and he was primed to he was primed to roll third start off. Yeah, I think game winner, the mile and a 16th distance, game winner wants more distance. And I think my battery level's fine. I think game winner wanted more ground, and I think we saw that. And a lot of people brought up the fact that I wasn't the biggest fan of his Santa Anita Derby, but a lot of people brought up the fact that game winner was not urged and he was not ridden with urgency. So my family is making a Kentucky Derby party with mint juleps. I hope you have a good time at your party. He passed. Jose Ortiz will have a great trip. He was pushed in the Wood Memorial and almost his horse. Yeah, I think Tacitus has a very good chance to be Bill Mott's first Kentucky Derby winner, and I would not be upset to see Bill Mott win. There would not be a person that would be upset. I would say the three great trainers that have yet to win their Kentucky Derbies are Bill Mott, Steve Asmussen, and Richard Mandella. So hopefully those guys can get their Kentucky Derby. Mandella is what a trainer Mandella is what a trainer should be. He's the old time trainer, puts the horse before everything else. Now, you can say, and every picture that I've seen of come out with Mandella, you can just tell he's got that he's got that resting sad face because Mandella knows he had the favorite and he's not going to win the Kentucky Derby. So I feel really bad for Mandella because he's a class act. Except for running 4 wide, they would. Now I will say game winner might have the issue of coming wide. That is the one question mark that I have with game winner. Game winner was stiffed in the Santa Anita. Yeah, game winner was kind of stiffed in the Santa Anita Derby. Slower final time. When he has a slow pace, runs a very fast final fraction. So game winner, yeah. Third time back for game. Yeah, best spot for him. I definitely think. Now, like I said, Newspaper of Record was my lock for this week. I think Newspaper of Record just needed a race. And now, if Newspaper of Record does this in Royal Ascot, I would be concerned. Is game winner fast enough to catch the front runners? If maximum security is the front runner you're talking about, and he gets the kind of trip he gets in the Florida Derby, no one is catching him. I don't care how fast you run the final quarter. If someone, yeah, Seth Dominion 777 just said that. If someone pushes the pace, you're not going to have to worry about speed to catch maximum security. And that's what I think. I really think someone honestly is going to bite the bullet and say, we got to go with maximum security. Now, I'm not even going to take a guess at who that is. It could be someone like Vicoma. It could be someone like, you should get a Discord account. I will think about it. That would not be a bad idea. I firmly believe Tax will push the fractions. Think Tax will push the fractions? I think War of Will is the horse that's going to push the fractions. Now, I don't think it's going to be as essential that War of Will gets up front, but like I said, War of Will need. Now, this was one thing that I did forget to talk about, and this is why I have to start scripting my videos because I forget things that I need to talk about. War of Will did have the horrible start. Yeah, War of Will is going to the front. There's no reason why he isn't. Because, and we said this, I don't care if he doesn't have the horrible. Now, the horrible start, it's great that War of Will recovered from that and there was no ill ailments from that. But War of Will is going to have to. If one of the Bafferts is so hot, why is he running 3? Well, Bob Baffert wants to win the Kentucky Derby, so he's going to give himself the best chance to win. And if you can get 3 horses into the Kentucky Derby, why would you say no? Why would you say, "Oh, I'm not going to run these other 2 great horses because I want my game winner to win"? No, you're going to run. You're going to get the most horses in to win the Kentucky Derby as possible. But I think if you see War of Will in traffic or stuck in behind horses, I talked about this. I said if he's getting dirt, hand your ticket back in. If you have do not take War of Will because you cannot guarantee that he's going to get a perfect trip. Owner's decision. Okay, that is the one thing that I will say. I do not like when owners decide. I think the good kind of owners, and you guys can feel free to put in who some of your owners are. Think War of Will don't got the will to win. I will say Win has done everything but win in 2019. If one of the Bafferts is so hot, why is he running 3? I answered that question already. The thing that I don't like about owners is that owners that meddle is just let the trainer deal with it. He won the yeah. Did he win the Pasco Stakes this year? I thought he won the Pasco Stakes in 2017 or 2018. I could be wrong, but last time I checked, I thought two owners end up unhappy. Yeah. Owners should just let the trainer decide how to run the race. That's what I say. If you have horses, you let the trainer decide. Now, obviously, like you tell the trainer what you want to do, but you're the owner. Let the trainer deal with it. It's like when the owner of a football team tells the general manager who to draft. That's not a good idea. Name a horse that was only good for one season or shorter. For me, it's Run Happy. Yeah, Run Happy. Well, Run Happy only ran one season. Yeah, Win 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 was flying the last eighth of a mile. So, and I can understand why Win 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 is kind of the trendy upset pick. Churchill Downs is favoring leaders and close stalkers so far and inside it. Yeah, and that's why I think I like Game Winner a lot. Now, that's not the fact that Churchill Downs has been favoring that because a couple years ago at Del Mar, you had the Breeders' Cup was not favoring speed at all. And then in the Breeders' Cup Classic, uh, Gunrunner and Collected ran 1-2 the whole way round. So it's been favoring speed. You're very interesting. How did you get to this? What do you mean, how did I get to this? Like, how did I get into horse racing, or how do I know all this stuff? War of Will is wow, is a wow acronym. Thoughts about Improbable. I do want to finish my thing about win-win or about talking about this guy. I will say definitely like it is going to be a somewhat wet track tomorrow. And Churchill Downs has a tendency to carry horses on the lead and close to lead. But Game Winner is not your deep closer. Game Winner is a stalker. There's four types of horses. There's front runners, there's stalkers, there's closers, and there's deep closers. Now, there's always a deep closer in the Kentucky Derby. There is one every year, and there's going to be one this year. And there's always one that hits the board. Likely muddy track. I think that has the possibility to carry someone very. Will you ever give moderators? What do you mean by that? Um, I did forget to. Why did you make a video saying Omaha Beach won't win the Kentucky Derby and then make it your top pick before being pulled out? Because I wanted to be cynical and make a reason why every horse was going to win the Kentucky Derby. Those videos do not reflect how I feel about the horses, but those videos were not clickbait either. So, like, I had some people saying those were kind of clickbait. They were not intended to be clickbait. I know they kind of come off as clickbait, but I really just wanted to give a reason why I thought each horse wasn't going to win the Kentucky Derby. And I'm going to do the same thing next year, or I'm going to do a different thing next year. I'm going to do each horse is going to win. I like the pros you used. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I will do one next year, and I'm going to give a reason why each horse is going to win. And then I'm going to say, this horse has no chance. But Omaha Beach, I really liked him. And it's really disappointing that he's not going to win. But I do want to answer Sketchy's question. I did get sidetracked with some of the new comments that were coming in. You asked, who do I think is a horse that was great for one season? I think Maximum Security is not a favorite. Oh, well, if he is the favorite, then good for him. I don't trust him at all. Um, did Run Happy only won one? Did Run Happy only won for one season, or did he run for? I don't think he ran as a 2-year-old, or I don't think he had much success as a 2-year-old. No, he did run twice as a 2-year-old, but Run Happy was retired because he was such a successful sprinter. No, he wasn't. I don't know. I didn't follow Run Happy very significantly, but another horse you're asking who was a great one-year wonder horse. Uh, that's a tough question. Okay, well, Lisa, if you feel that way, that's okay. That's fine. I don't really care. Uh, I can think of a few. I can't think of a few off the top of my head. I'll have to think about that and get back to you. Um, who do I think? You think maximum security? Out of Bob Baffert, so who is the front runner? I think game winner is Bob Baffert's front runner. I don't think that the other two are per se slouches, but I think game winner is your favorite. And I think come post time tomorrow, game winner is going. I would like it if game winner was not the post time favorite, but I think game winner is going to end up being your post time favorite. I can think of a few. I'm trying to think right now of who would be my horses that were only good for 1 year. Oh, I can think of one. Rachel Alexandra is definitely one that I can think of. Winning Colors, yeah. Winning Colors, I would call her a 1 year wonder. Danzig, I don't want to call Danzig, like, Danzig was only good for 1 year, but Danzig was so good. If he could have just stayed healthy, Danzig would have definitely been a very good horse. Omaha Beach wins at Saratoga. He has it all set. Yeah, I think Omaha Beach is something that you look into very toward the end of the year. And I do say there is some hope for Omaha Beach because B. Wayne Hughes is not the type of guy that Elliot Walden is. And I think it's great that someone like that's not Coolmore or Windstar Farm bought the breeding rights to Omaha Beach because maybe B. Wayne Hughes will allow Omaha Beach to run as a 4-year-old. Obviously, we'll see how that goes in. Mr. Frisky, I don't even want to say that Mr. Frisky was good in 1990. He was good in the first half, but I think Rachel Alexander comes to mind. But Rachel Alexander's one great year was so great that her 2010 season, which was okay, it's fine because she had the best season of a 3-year-old filly since I would say since Genuine Risk. If they allow maximum security to take the lead after the half, what are you saying here exactly, Javier? If they allow max security to take the lead after half, they will have to run and run. Yeah, no, if maximum security has the lead after the half mile and it's uncontested, then don't worry about someone beating him because if he is uncontested, he's going to win it wire to wire. There has not been a wire to wire Kentucky Derby winner since I believe since War Emblem because Justify didn't win the Kentucky Derby on the lead. Nyquist was right behind lead. American Pharaoh was a stalker the whole time. I'm not going to go through each of them, but yeah, now that I think of it, War Emblem was the last horse to win the Kentucky Derby wire to wire. So hard to think maximum security wasn't a $16,000 claimer. Will be tested for class. Yeah, he is going to be tested for class, but I'm not necessarily concerned about him. I think he has the class. Nyquist was Nyquist was a very good 2-year-old, but I think Nyquist, I would say, and I haven't necessarily said this on Racing Rundown yet, but my opinion on Nyquist was he peaked in the Florida Derby. And usually what happens with horses is they have a peak. And then right after they hit their peak, they run another one or two good races. And you can look at that with Winning Colors. Winning Colors is the example that I'm going to use today because we're picking on Winning Colors. Winning Colors runs a fantastic Santa Anita Oaks and then Winning Colors wins the Kentucky, runs a fantastic uh, Santa Anita Derby, then runs the Kentucky Derby, and then she tails off in the Preakness and Belmont. But I will say, I will say your horses that like Nyquist, his peak was the Florida Derby, ran a obviously good race, good enough to win the Kentucky Derby, and then he could have won the Preakness if uh, Mario Gutierrez didn't screw up and send him to the lead. Your picks are Game Winner and Tacitus. Yeah, those are solid picks. Big Brown took the lead from the 20 hill. Did he win wire to wire? I don't. I thought he won just off the pace, but Nyquist was very good. He could have won the Preakness. I do not think Nyquist would have been a Triple Crown winner by any means. Always, always dreaming just ran two good races. If Bomb went, yeah, no, well, would would be a surprise. Yeah, it would definitely be a surprise if Master Fencer wins. Seth brings up this: if Bob Baffert wins this, Belichick won his 6th Super Bowl in 2/3 91 days ago. I will say the one record that Bob has left to break, two records he has left to break are Ben Jones's record of 6 Kentucky Derbies and Wayne Lucas's record of consecutive Triple Crown races won, which is 6. I think he has the ability to break that this year. I'm not necessarily saying with all the same horses, but those are the 2 records he has left to break. If anyone has any last Ben Jones tie, yeah, I think he's going to tie Ben Jones tomorrow. So if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to ask them. I will see you tomorrow. I will probably go live maybe like 2 or 3 tomorrow. OBR really was only good for a second. Thank you. I appreciate that. Who are you abbreviating OBR? I'm blanking right now. I'm just gonna give him another minute to respond to me. Or I thought you were using an abbreviation. Yeah, Orb. No, I really think the thing that Orb benefited from is. Thank you, I appreciate that. I think what Orb benefited from was Orb had a fast pace to run into. Now, obviously, it wasn't a 2001 Kentucky Derby pace, but he had a fast pace to run into. The current thrust is to breed decent to win early with great speed. Appreciate your time. Thank you. I appreciate your time too. So, if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to ask them. Yeah, I'm free to talk on Instagram tomorrow if you'd like to. I think Roadster does not hit the board as he will bounce. Thank you. I thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Roadster doesn't hit the board, but we'll see. And that's really what I have for you guys tonight. If anyone has any last minute questions, but I think I'm gonna cut it here. I appreciate your time. I will see you all tomorrow. Who do you think is gonna win tomorrow? Antonio jumping in right before we end the show. Name a horse that was either all or nothing. Bayern, perfect example of an all or nothing horse. It was feast or famine for him. Bayern is the perfect all or nothing horse. Either he wins. Plus Parfait is being underestimated. Plus K Parfait is not being underestimated. Plus K Parfait could not win. Plus K Parfait could not win against. He ran 13th in the Risen Star Stakes. Goes to Dubai, a very subject field in Dubai. My long shot is Todd. My long shot is Country House. Lava Man and Classless. I think Bayern is the perfect example of an all or nothing horse. Yeah, Plus K Parfait was a bad horse in America, and he got lucky in Dubai. The Philly Divine Image, I think this is kind of an indictment on her, but I don't think Divine Image was really that good. I know I will give her the benefit of the doubt. She did have. Yeah, I did really nail that all or nothing example. Because I mean, you saw if Bayern got something his own way, Pennsylvania Derby, Haskell, Breeders' Cup Classic, win wire to wire. Travers Stakes, Preakness, not so much. I don't think so. I think Signal Man line is being underestimated. Uh, Lisa, I will have to disagree with you on that. I think Plus K Parfait is not a good horse at all. But I think if anyone has any last minute things to add, uh, that's all for tonight, Antonio. I'm sorry. You did ask who my picks were. Game Winner is my pick to win. By my standards, is my second. Plus K Parfait just kind of pathetic in his last. Yeah, Plus K Parfait was pathetic in his American starts. So my picks are Game Winner by my standards, Country House, and Code of Honor. Spinoff is definitely the best value horse in the Kentucky Derby. That's what I'll say about him. I will talk more about this tomorrow. Again, like Game Winner for the win. Game Winner for win, place, show, but Roadster for the win. He was meant to look pathetic. Okay, whatever. 2016. So I will say I have not been this excited about a Kentucky Derby since 2016. So you would be saying all that now. He was meant to. Okay, Lisa, I don't really know why you're so high on. I don't know why you're so high on Plus K Parfait. I mean, good for you, but I will have to disagree with you on that. So anyway, that's it. I gotta cut it here. I will see you guys tomorrow at probably around 2 or 3. Uh, DMs are open on Instagram and Twitter. I know, Sketchy, you did ask it. You can DM me as soon as this is over if you have any questions. Feel free to like I said, DMs are open. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. The support is greatly appreciated. My guess winner is greater than 15-1. That's a bold prediction. I'll talk more about that tomorrow, but that is a very bold prediction. Anyway, thank you all for your time. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night and good luck. If you don't come tomorrow, good luck.